This is mid-October in 2023. We're just going for a little walk around Christchurch Priory Church in Christchurch, of course, in Dorset. Any historical information I give out in this, bear in mind I'm no historian and could be talking complete rubbish. If you really want accuracy, Google christchurchpriorychurch.org for the proper information. Although anything I say is what I believe. Priory, I think, is about 11th century. I'm told the newer parts of it are 14th and 15th century. That's 1300 and something and 1400 and something. I had to cut out the original audio on this and do a voiceover because the wind was quite rough and blustery, and even with a windsock on the microphone it was far too noisy. Priory regularly does choral concerts and classical music concerts and other such events which are either free or a very small fee to attend. There's no admission fee to the Priory, although you are asked to make a small donation to go towards the upkeep and maintenance of the place. It's a very ancient churchyard, as you know, and very ancient burial ground. As you can see, the state of many of the gravestones, which have long since become mostly legible. One or two which are legible are 1800 and something, so a little bit before my time. Absolutely. This is leaving the Priory to go into Christchurch High Street itself. A bit of road probably as old as the Priory. Castle View. I'm completely at a loss as to what or which castle one might be viewing from this location. If anybody knows, pop it in the comments. Ye old 8 Bells shop in general, gifts and local fudge and toffee and ice cream and whatnot. Been there since I was a kid, so that's a little while ago. Lovely old cottages. How old they are, I really have no idea. The vicarage, a magnificent vicarage, as befits a building of this age. Wonders how many feet have trodden this path over the centuries. I have been kindly told that it's perfectly happy for me to film within the Priory itself, although I would suggest before filming in any church or place of worship, even if you see a sign saying it's permitted, it's always polite to ask somebody. Some places are obliged to say it's okay on a sign, but they don't really like it. Asking costs nothing and often results in some useful information. Playing this back, I realised that I stupidly left the heavy windsock on the microphone for the camera due to the extremely blustery and noisy wind outdoors. With the result, any original audio of my ramblings as I walked around were virtually inaudible unless you had the volume turned up to a ridiculous level. So I had to replace this with a voiceover. This is walking down the central nave of the church towards the main altar. Everything's in absolutely fabulous condition, although it's 1,000 years old maybe. Can't say I'm a particularly religious person or such. No real opinions either way. I just find old churches like this incredible sense of peace and calm and quiet and well worth a walk around and a visit. and of course appreciate the incredible quality of workmanship which went into create them in the first place and their upkeep as the centuries rolled by. Like many people, I've visited the Priory many times over the years I've lived here. One can only praise the various volunteers who either raise the funds for keeping it up together or do a great deal of the work. And when you look at some of the plaques on the wall, people who died in 1800 and something, and outdoors most of the gravestones are illegible, they're hundreds of years old. If I haven't left any of these signs which I photograph on long enough to read, I always hit the pause button and read them. Or indeed visit the christchurchpriorychurch.org website, and huge amount of information on there. Well, I've never been before. They have a museum, and it's up in the East Tower. This is the narrowest, steepest staircase I've ever encountered, and winds round in a general clockwise spiral, and then goes anti-clockwise spiral. There are a couple of what we call sword steps on the way up, which is basically 2 steps which are slightly steeper than the rest of them. The idea being that if you've been pursued upstairs by a bunch of enemies or whatever, you will be aware of the 2 extra steps and walk up them with ease, whereas your enemy would encounter a sudden higher step, trip over it, and you could whip out your sword and do for him. Round about this point where I happen to say to camera, that's about enough for today, I climbed enough stairs, when a voice from on high, the lady volunteer who looks after the museum at the top of the stairs, called out, "It's not much further to go, you can make it, and there's a nice comfortable chair for you to come and sit on and recover." It was actually quite a few steps further, but well worth the climb. My extreme thanks to the lady volunteer for encouraging me to complete the journey. The stairs basically go up within the walls of this tower, which is the reason why the 1 minute they're clockwise, the next minute they're anti-clockwise. And this is the kind lady who called down with encouragement. And we had quite a bit of a chat, but as I said, I was stupid and left the windsock on the microphone, so we failed to get her words of wisdom. Quite an interesting sort of museum room, showing artefacts going back to the early days of the Priory Church. This is the trip downstairs. I think that was an unfortunate choice of phrase, the word trip. The stairs are very narrow, very steep,
There's an old bedroom handrail on one wall, which is advisable to keep your hand on. Then the handrail changes to the other side. Whoops. If you do this, do be careful that one or two of the steps are a different height to the others. As I said, this was designed in medieval days that if anybody's chasing you up the stairs, you're used to the fact that a couple of them change steps, they aren't, and they trip over them, and you can then whip out your sword or whatever and do for them. Light at the end of the tunnel, or the bottom of the tunnel. Always be careful of the final step. It's always the one that's just odd and it gets you. And some cupboard. And there we go, back into the sunshine. Priory has a website with details of their choral recitals, admissions and tours of the belfry, which is something I must come and do some stage. I'll put a link in the description below. There's a grey squirrel up there in the crook of that tree. Another one just climbing down there and along the branch.